there was a church sign, and the church sign kind of stopped me in my tracks. I jumped out and took a picture of it. The sign read, "Faith is a verb." And on this given day, I think that that's something that we could all take to heart. Faith is a verb. It's an action word. It's something that you have and you act upon it. It's an action word. And even though in this time right now where there are so many questions, trust me, I bet you I got up 3 or 4 times last night and just walked around the house in the darkness, and my mind will start spinning, and I'm thinking about so many people that have things a whole lot worse off than I have. And sometimes I feel a bit guilty that I might be worried so much or having such high anxiety when others maybe have things a whole lot tougher than I do. And in that moment last night, I said, just remember, Cyrus, faith is a verb, man. You got to have faith. You got to pull yourself together right now, and you got to be whatever it is you were put on this earth to be in this moment. You may have seen that here in Tennessee. I know you know about the destruction we had from the tornadoes a couple of weeks ago. Well, we're back under tornado watch again today. As a matter of fact, this moment that I speak to you in right now, we're in between storms. Well, in a whole lot of ways, us as a society and all of the world, we're in between storms.
Yeah.
And in that moment of the storm is the best time to dig deep and find that faith and rely upon it. And I'm trying to do that.
I was reading some astrology last night, and I can't remember exactly kind of all the degrees of which everything is in right now cosmically, but I was actually reading that where the moon and the cosmos are aligning, this hasn't been in this alignment since like 1500s, and we're actually in the shift of like a 2,000-year cycle. Apparently, we're going into a new cycle of the next 2,000 years. It actually said that it started in 2012, which I definitely felt that cycle begin at that time. I don't know if you can really remember exactly 2012, but it was when, we had kind of just ended Hannah Montana, which is funny that now we're kind of celebrating the beginning, but we had just ended. And you and I didn't know what to really do with my life or my time because our schedules for 8 years were so filled. Every morning, same schedule, same ritual, 8 a.m., we knew we'd wrap at 6 p.m. We knew what our life was. And that's what I think a lot of the worry, anxiety, and fear is happening for so many people around the globe right now is because, some days we don't love to get up for work. Some days are harder than others, but it gives us a structure. It gives us an idea that we know what we're going to do today because it's routine. And so when you lose that routine, you can feel like you don't even know what to do with yourself, or feel like, for me, I didn't know my worth because so much of my worth and value was wrapped up in a character that I got to go and be 5 days a week, and kids would enjoy, every night at home. But then I felt like I had less value because I wasn't contributing to that anymore. But apparently, since 2012 until now, and then actually it said that early on in January, I think they said January 12th was when this shift really locked in that we haven't had in thousands of years.
Well, I happen to be a.
Oh, it's stopping. Hold on. Oh, I got you. Yep.
Okay.
I want to know, did you feel that shift? Do you feel it now that you're so intuitive? Do you feel a shift and a change and a cleanse?
I feel a lot of things right now, and I do feel a great deal of anxiety. I feel a great deal of sadness, pain, suffering, but yet, on the flip side of that, faith is a verb. I know that what we all have to do as human beings, and individually, just speaking to an individual out there, listen to me. Thoughts are things. No matter what religion you study or what psychology you study, they all agree, philosophers, biblical, everyone agrees that everything in your world begins in your mind.
Yes.
And as a man thinketh in his heart and in his soul, so is he. Or Thomas Edison might say, what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Both of those philosophies say the same thing. Your thoughts are seeds. And so what each of us wants to do right now, no matter what's going on in this crazy world, you think about what your goals are. You think about what your dreams are. You think about what your purpose is. And then you plant that seed in your mind and you chart a path and you take steps. Remember that success is the progressive realization of worthy ideas or goals, not necessarily the attainment of it, because let me tell you, when you get to the top, there's only one way to go, and that's down. So the fun part, Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash, all the greats that had said this to me at one time or another, that the fun part is the climb. You sang about it. The climb is the fun part. Once you get to the top, there's nowhere else to go but down. So enjoy the dream and know that failure is the most important ingredient for success.
I know the next part. By eliminating one way that one won't work, you're one step closer to the way that will.
You got it. That's amazing.
I told you I listened. These are all things that I can remember. And when I feel like I failed, I remember, well, now I know what not to do next time. I can't wait to try again because I know what not to do. So I am closer to the way that I will get what I am striving for.
Failure is the most important ingredient for success. Now, once you clarify what you've done, then you've eliminated one way that won't work, and then you regroup. Remember, life is a series of adjustments. It's exactly like trying to park your car in a parking space in a crowded downtown city. You find a parking space, you claim it as yours, you clarify in your mind, I'm going to back into the space, and then you start backing up, and then you might have to pull forward, then you might have to cut to the wheel to the left or the right, or go forward or backwards. But if you stay focused, barring an unforeseen catastrophe, you'll get your vehicle into the space. But it's a series of adjustments. Life is the exact same way. Persistence is the key. Persistence is not a very glorified word. It's not like glory. It's not like faith. Persistence is, a bunch of syllables and they're all jabbled up. But remember, persistence, it's not the force of a jackhammer that breaks the concrete. It's the repetition. Bap, 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 bap. Be a jackhammer. You keep on keeping on, even when the doors are closed. You keep on knocking. And if nobody opens it, eventually you have to kick it down.
Dad, you are the best. I'm going to remember that so much about the jackhammer, because sometimes I feel like you can try too hard where you lose the fun and the passion of it. When you start making music with the idea, I've actually had this, and I know you've had this in your career too. I've had people tell me, you got to go in the studio and write one more song. You need one more song to complete this album, and it's going to be the hit, and you got to write the hit. You can't go into a studio writing your biggest song. Look, it's laughable. It's fun.
You do not know how many times I've heard one more song. I've heard 10 more songs. I've heard start over. I've heard erase the whole thing. I mean, like, hey, but you know what? Here's the key. You make your music or you do your art for the love of it. That's the whole thing. You do it because that's what your passion is. Art is art. It can be seen as different ways. You do what you do because you love it. If somebody likes it, that's great. But you do it because you love it.
One more song will never end. It will continue. And so when you feel like you've told the story that you want to tell in that book, there's sagas. Your music and your album are sagas. So you can have, one album that tells a story as this first chapter. I mean, some of our favorite books, like whether it's Twilight or Hunger Games or whatever it is, there's like 10 of them to tell one story. And that's what an album is. That's why you put out these records, where you can tell your stories in chapters of your life.
Can I tell you one thing? This is so embarrassing. I've never told this before, but I'm going to tell it now because I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Do you know I've only read one book in my whole life? And
The Bible?
No, it's not. I wish it was, and that's the book that I need to read. You know, if my BIBLE was as important as my PHONE, I'd be golden. But here's the facts. Like, I read one book, and it's called Think and Grow Rich by Earl Nightingale, Norman Vincent Peale. And it's the study and philosophy of setting and achieving your goals. They wanted to know, how do some people chart a course and say, I'm going to get from this continent all the way across this ocean to that other continent, to the other side. While some people can do that, other people just go out into the sea and vacillate from one side to another, and the storms come, and pretty soon the waves overtake the ship, and they all drown. This book, Think and Grow Rich, a chiropractor in Flatwoods, Kentucky, named Dr. H.B. Bailey, stopped me as an 18-year-old kid. Actually, I stopped him. His car was on the side of the road, and I was late for work at Greenbow Lake State Park. And something told me to stop. I thought that the old boy was having a car